It's Grace Redman. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Real Talk, where I get to have real life, raw conversations with incredible people from my circles and communities who've created amazing. Today, my incredible guest is Eve Richards. Eve is a British born powerhouse based in Beverly Hills whose journey spans industries and continents. She's an actress, producer, and global speaker with over 30 independent films to her credit, including her latest movie release, A Line of Fire, now streaming on Amazon Prime, where she stars alongside Cuba Gooding Jr. She's also the creator and host of the Discovery Pod with Eve, a platform that celebrates resilience, reinvention, and the voices shaping the future. Her career bridges entertainment, entrepreneurship, and philanthropy, and she was recently recognized by Worth Minds magazine as a progressive visionary in storytelling, style, and social change. Please help me welcome the incredible Eve Richards to the show today.
Oh, thank you so much, Grace. That was so incredible. I mean, I'm like, oh my God, is that me?
Yes, sister, it is you. It is you. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, you just look stunning, stunning.
Yeah, and so do you. You look radiant in pink.
Oh, thank you. I know it's your favorite color, so I just, wanted to throw on some pink today. I love color like you do. I think it just brightens up the day, and sometimes, when I'm not feeling that great, I throw on some color and it's like bam.
Oh, yes, I love color. I used to wear a lot of black, I have to say this. And then my mother passed away unexpectedly. And after she died, I literally just pivoted from black to wearing colors because, I mean,
Mhm.
you said colors, it helps to keep me upbeat, mentally motivated. So.
I feel you on that because I think we have something in common. My mother, I know your mom died when she was very young at 52. My mother also died young. She was only 50 as well. And same thing, like in our tradition, we're supposed to wear black. So I wore black for 6 months. And then after that, I just couldn't wear black anymore. And so that started my journey of just wearing color and helping the color and the color helping me, like you said, feel vibrant and alive.
Yes, I'm so sorry to hear about your mom. I mean, my mom, well, died at such an early age, like your mother. And I think it was such a difficult time in my life looking back, just because no one tells you that, oh, when someone passes, these are the various phases of grief you're gonna go through. And now that I'm looking back, I mean, I don't know if there were learnings from, of course, there are learnings from it, but grief is a tough thing. So.
It is totally a tough thing. How did that change your life once your mother passed away? How did it change your life, your career?
Gosh, that's a great question. It changed my life in so many ways because my mother was a judge and my dad was an attorney. I'd always been in the entertainment industry, but I wasn't doing it full time like a lot of different people out there. I mean, I had a great corporate job. I worked with American Express. I lived in San Francisco. When I worked for Amex, I traveled around the world. I was in Paris, I was in Hawaii, and I got accepted to law school. After my mother died, I sort of reevaluated my life and I just realized that I was only going to law school for my parents to make
Mm.
my proud. And I come from a very, very, very close knit family. I think I was extremely close to my mom to a fault where I woke up one day and there was this emptiness. And it took a while, it took about 10 years. And
I
I
feel
think
you.
when my mom passed away, I made a conscious decision not to have kids because not that I cannot do it, but I wanted my mom. So my life changed, my thought process, the way I sort of pivoted and just decided to focus on career and less about my personal life. And those were all changes for my mother because I got scared of being so close to someone and then waking up and the person was gone.
Oh, that's powerful. That's powerful. And so that was the motivation that made you decide to focus on your career.
Yeah, I realized for a long time I was wanting to make my parents proud, always about my mother and my dad.
Mm.
But After my mom died, it took a while because I went through a grieving process and it was very difficult. The one thing I was able to do was exercise consistently because
Mm,
exercising helped keep me mentally zen. And I'm only
yes.
going to talk about this just because it's my experience of what I went through. I saw a doctor, a psychologist, and who was like, "Well, Eve, I want to put you on antidepressants." And this can be a taboo, but I'm only sharing based on my experience.
Of course. I'm please share.
Yeah, and so he said, my body went into a shock, and he said, "We want to put you on some antidepressants." I have never been a believer in taking pills to help me keep mentally zen. Again, that's just my belief. I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way. I'm
No,
always
I hear you.
about my beliefs and what happened to me. This is my life and what I experienced. But I went on the pills for 3 weeks and literally woke up one day. I was lethargic.
Mhm.
I had no emotions. I didn't like the feeling. And I said, you know what? I got to stop. So, exercise for me is something that has helped me. Exercising and acupuncture meditations, those were the things that it took a long time. I would exercise, go to the gym 2 hours, but I would come home and I would still have this fear of being alone in my house. My brother, who was living in Boston, I have one brother, he came to live with me. If my brother went out of the house, I would turn on all the lights and wait for my brother. I could not go to sleep. I had someone that I was dating if he didn't come by. So those were some of I went through a very traumatic experience. So again, I'm only saying this about the antidepressant based on my experience. It works for a lot of people, but it didn't work for me.
I hear you. I had a very similar experience because, again, losing my mom was also, very traumatic for me as well. And I was pregnant with my youngest son at
No.
the time. And so I also fell into a very, deep depression. And the doctor also recommended antidepressants. And, like you, again, nothing against anyone who takes medication. There's times that we really, really need it. And at that time, same, I needed it. And I was on it for a year. And then I had just a crash where I felt horrible and I found myself in the doctor's office crying uncontrollably. And in that moment, I also decided like, I want to do this a different way. And, I had already been exercising, but that's when, like you, I said, I'm going to focus on the Zen and the exercise and the meditation. And I was able to pull myself, you know, out of it. But I feel you. It was a terrible, terrible time. So I feel you, on that. And, there's nothing wrong, with getting support when you need it. And again, for me, like you, it just put me in a place that was terrible. And I used exercise. I'm addicted to exercise.
Me too. It's the one thing that keeps me mentally zen. And I'm so sorry to hear about your experience, and knowing that you were pregnant as well must have made it even more difficult. So
Thank
sorry to hear.
You're so sweet. Thank you. And it's like it's a parallel, experience. So thank you so much for being open to share. And we're going to face storms in this life, and like we see you, you're amazing and so successful and you're doing great. I love following you, and I know that there's so much chaos in the world and especially in your industry. How do you continue to stay zen and grounded when there is so much chaos?
I like that question. And it's something that I talk about. I think I'm very transparent because, for the most part, you post what people want, what you want people to see. People don't get to see the full scope of a person's life. And you're seeing little snippets of being on the red carpet. It's not as glamorous as a lot of people think. But
Mm,
someone like me, I have to be out there because acting it's a business and the business is me. And in
yes.
order for me to excel in the business, I got to put myself out there. A lot of people usually think, oh, she's always on the red carpet. It's not about being on the red carpet. It's about networking, like any business that a person has. you've got to network. And how do you get noticed? You get noticed when you go out. You attend
Yes.
events. It could be a red carpet. And there are times when I go out, I take pictures and I go home. And people may not know this, but I live a very quiet life, so people get to see what I want them to see. And I'm doing a much better job in terms of not posting like red carpets. I want to post a variation so people get to see the real me. It's not just the red carpet, but exercising, as we just alluded to earlier, keeps me mentally zen. Surrounding myself with family, surrounding myself with friends, people who uplift. I try to, I don't have a lot of friends in the industry, not because there's anything wrong, but I think I like to have that normal life where I can get away from it all and know what it feels like just being at home. Over the summer, I was filming a movie in South Carolina, but I took some time and I spent time with my brother and his family in Minneapolis and then went to Boston to see the rest of my family. My brother used to live in Boston. That's where all my family members, that's where we're from. But so those are the things that sort of help me keep me mentally zen and grounded because there's a lot of sadness, a lot of depression in the industry. And I say this because one minute you're working and the next minute you're not. So it's very cyclical. It goes through, you can be in the best movie and you don't know when you're going to get another. So, in order to keep me mentally balanced, I've got to find other things to do away from the industry.
What are some of those things that you do that are away from the industry?
I again focus on my mental well being a lot, exercise 4 or 5 days a week. I love hiking. I volunteer for various organizations. When I lived in San Francisco, one of the organizations that is true to my heart is Dress for Success.
Oh, yeah.
Used to volunteer for Dress for Success as a stylist. In LA, I was volunteering for an organization called I Did Something Good Today. I was helping with social media. So I try to find different things that I'm passionate about to sort of get away from reading a script and do something else. And those are the things that I would do to help keep me mentally zen and grounded.
And thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you here at Real Talk. If you've been inspired by what you're hearing and you're ready to take things to the next level, I would be honored to work with you. If you're a leader or entrepreneur ready to soar, I offer one-on-one coaching to help you create a business and life of freedom that you are excited to wake up to. And if you're craving something more intimate, I offer a personal VIP day that includes deep dive coaching, a nature walk, and an early dinner. I promise you will leave just feeling rejuvenated. If this speaks to you, please reach out and let's do this together. You can find me at www.graceredman.com. Now, back to the program. I love that. And, a lot of what you talked about is service and giving back,
Mhm.
which I find, for me as well, that helps me. So we're very similar, exercise, family, connection, community, and giving back. It,
Yeah.
it really does help because it's chaotic, regardless, like you said, if you're in the industry or not. And I can only imagine how chaotic the entertainment industry is. And you said, you see me on the red carpet, and it looks so amazing and so glamorous. And you said, it's not that glamorous. What about it isn't that glamorous?
Um, Let me rephrase it. I think people see the lights, the camera, and people think, oh my gosh, don't get me wrong. It's a wonderful feeling. I'm very fortunate to have gotten to know quite a few people. I have a PR manager. I have a friend of mine she's got her own PR agency, Nicole. I get invited to quite a few things, and I've gotten to meet a lot of photographers and a lot of reporters who get to interview me. So that's great because it's all about exposure. But I think sometimes people think being on the red carpet, you're on your feet, you're standing, you're waiting, right? So that can be a little bit hard. And, it's a wonderful thing to put yourself out there. Again, it's always like, am I overexposing myself? But the upside to that is you've got to put yourself out there, especially when you're not a household name, because that's how you get known.
For sure.
It is glamorous, but again, I don't want people to think, oh, it's all about the glam, because
Got it.
I would tell you, even earlier, we spoke about this earlier. I was in this one of those moods where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just not feeling it. I didn't get much sleep today, right? But I got to show up. And
Yes,
I'm just basically trying to tell you that someone may see a picture of me, like, oh, she looks great, but they don't know what I went through 2 seconds
totally.
ago. So that's what I mean. It's the same thing with a red carpet event, that you got to go out and you got to present yourself in a certain way. But I'm talking more about the behind the scenes, what happens behind the scene.
Totally. I feel you. And I know that to get to where I am, there are times that I had to fake it till I made it. And I know some people, they don't like that term. However, to me, it's helped, to fake it till you make it. Because like you said, sometimes you don't know what's going on behind the scenes or how you're feeling. And then when you show up, I know for me, it's just when I put the dress on and I show up, I definitely feel better. How do you feel about faking it till you make it?
That's a great analogy, and I do the same. Again, as we talked about, and I'm going to say this because today was one of those days that I didn't sleep very well. I just had a lot on
Me
my.
too.
Yeah, and I'll say this. One of the reasons is I've always lived alone. Always, when I lived alone right out of college in Boston, but then I had a family member with me for an extended period of time, and then they left. So sort of readjusting to, oh my gosh, how did it feel being in my house alone and all of a sudden they're gone? And it's like I'm missing that. I'm just being transparent, like
Yeah,
missing
I
that
appreciate it.
having company in the house where it's like little things that you take for granted. Having someone in the house where it's like I'm reading a script, but it's nice to know there's someone there, right? And so little things like that, and all of a sudden it's like I got to readjust to the way I was doing things, like
Mhm.
adapting to my new norm. So that's what I mean.
I feel like we're constantly adapting to a new norm because things are changing, constantly changing for me, in my personal and my professional life. And so, how do you feel about when we get comfortable? Do you think when we get comfortable, it just makes us stagnant? Is that why maybe there's a constant change going on?
I think I never get comfortable because even in the entertainment industry, regardless of the industry, I think, like they say, the mind is a terrible thing to waste. So you're
Yes,
constantly challenging the mind, right? It's like my dad always used to say, you got to always educate yourself, keep your brains active. And
I
it's the
agree.
same thing where even with people that you work with, you can never get complacent because you always want to challenge yourself. So I'm always looking for opportunities where I can challenge myself. If I'm not on set in the movies, I'm still doing a lot of different things behind the scenes because, again, I want to keep my brain active. If you don't keep the brain active as a person gets older, you can easily get, different types of illnesses.
I'm totally with you as well. Keeping, my mind active, moving our bodies, like you mentioned earlier. I mean, so many great nuggets.
Yeah.
There's something I want to go back to because you talked about being out there and exposing yourself and being seen. And I feel what in my experience, I had a very, very hard time doing that. It took me a long time to put myself out there. And as I sit in these rooms with other women in different industries, one of the challenges they have is putting themselves out there because they feel like they're going to be too much. Can you
Yeah.
speak on that for us so we can learn to be outwardly ambitious?
Of course. And congratulations on taking that step,
Thank you.
pivoting and putting yourself out there. One of the things that I always say to people is, first of all, don't be afraid. When I made a conscious decision, especially with social media, because social media can be very, very powerful,
Yes.
needed to identify the type of content that I want to put out there. And a lot of actors are, you want to be very private and you only want to promote when you have a project. But a casting director had said this to me about a year and a half ago, and it was right around the time I lost my dad. He was like, Eve, you got to put yourself out there because someone in India, and these were his exact words that I'm trying to remember, even if it's going to a coffee shop and the line is long and you take a video, a 10-second, and you post it, someone in India might be fascinated, thinking, oh my gosh, people in America have to go through that. So it made me think, like, oh, okay, but how do I want to position myself? What types of content do I want to share? And when I lost my dad, it was such a horrible experience. Not because my dad passed, it was unexpected, but it's something I've talked about when I've interviewed with different people as well. My dad was a very successful attorney. He had this woman who was in Boston who claimed to have loved my father, but she never loved him. My dad bought her a house, all of those. I'm not focused on the material things, but my dad got sick. My dad was in the hospital. She abandoned my father when my dad needed her the most. I didn't get to see my dad when he passed. And it was so painful and it was so raw, the emotions, because my father was brilliant, a brilliant man. But after he divorced my mother, he ended up with this woman, and all of his sisters kept telling him, she's not a good person. She's only with you for money. And I
Mhm.
say this because it's a twofold in terms of me putting myself out there. I was bleeding so much for my father and the pain and all the
Mm.
years wasted where family members had issues with my dad because he chose that woman. And I decided to start posting regularly, but I wasn't just posting. It was intentional about
Yes.
what I'm sharing. I was sharing the experiences that I was going through, lessons learned from
Mm.
my experience dealing with my pain, my father. My dad and I were very close, but after my mom passed, this woman brought herself closer and wanted to, my dad was vulnerable and weak and used that. So that's how I started putting myself out there. But I took the pain and turned it into purpose, where
Yes.
every piece that I put out there, even if I'm wearing on a red carpet, I think about the intention. I don't
Mm.
post because I want people to see, look at my dress. I post because I think about, what do I want people to get out of this
Yeah.
message? And so that's how I started shifting from just putting myself out there, but sort of having a strategy in terms of the message. What do I want the world to know about me? I don't want the world to say, oh, she was just on a red carpet. Yes, I'm on a red carpet, but what's the intention? What is the
Mm.
message that I want people to see about? So that's how I started repositioning how I post and the types of content that I post, if that helps.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love how you shared like being intentional, like thinking about what is the value. Because I feel like there is so much magic in intention. And sometimes we don't think about it. We're more focused on, having it be perfect. However, if you just have an intention and you put that out, the energy behind the intention is what comes through. That's what I see
Oh,
when I
yes.
follow you.
Thank
And you're welcome. And I appreciate how you're authentic, and you also speak about subjects that sometimes are off limits with others. Like you talk about mental health, and you've talked about suicide, and I think those are all very important subjects, especially during this time of chaos. And I can see the intention in your posts, and I appreciate that. And you
you.
feel connected too, because it resonates, because all of us have dealt with, at least in my experience, I've been affected by mental health, by unfortunately by suicide. And so I'm like, okay, Eve's a real person.
Thank you. And it's not because there's something wrong with me, but I think I don't want to put on a facade and act like, oh my goodness, 100% of the time I'm always at, this high frequency, right? For the most part, 98% of the time, I'm always very, very positive. But there are days when like I just shared with you, I had a family member stay with me for a period of time and they left. And I feel this emptiness, this void because I'm back alone and it's a rainy day, right? And my mood is like, oh my goodness, I'm going through. I'm a real person. Take away the dress. I'm just someone who deals with real issues like everyone else. And I want people to know that, yes, there's this aspect, there's a little bit of glam, but there's also the real human behind that story who goes through similar issues. There are days when I doubt myself, like, why am I doing this? How you go through those phases where, because again, lights, camera, action, and you constantly want to be out there pushing yourself, but you also get mentally burned,
For
and so you
sure.
got to slow down.
For sure. Which, I want to talk about, the hustle and grind culture. I created success through that hustle and grind culture, and that culture still exists. And I know it's not sustainable. And one of my coaches, today, put me on the spot. And I felt like back in that, like I have to hustle. And then I stepped back and I said, there has to be a different way. How do you deal with that when, especially in your industry, when it's, it's a constant hustle, it's, the sharks, how are you able to like step back and know no matter what, you are going to be successful even when you step back?
So it's something that I'm learning. It's a constant, I'm constantly evolving, but like social media is a good example. People post every single day because if you're working constantly, you want to post or you want to help with the algorithm, whatever it is. I have made that conscious decision for myself. I don't want to post every day because
Ditto.
the truth is, you can't help it, but you want to compare. Oh, this person is doing this person is doing that. I don't have Instagram, Facebook, any of those on my phone. I upload. I know it seems like it's a lot of work. When I have to upload, I basically go and I download the app, post, and I delete. And it's for my mental well-being because we live in a society, as you just mentioned. You can't help it but compare yourself to others. Oh, those people are doing this. They're doing this, and I'm not. You're happy for someone else's success. So I try to protect my mental well-being. That's how it helps me push back. Where when you're constantly working, it's great, but you get mentally burnt. Like I just did the shoot in South Carolina. It was great for a month, and I came back, and then I've been reading for a script, a project which is supposed to shoot in India and Australia for 60 days. That
Nice.
took a lot out of me preparing for the audition, and I got mentally burnt. But I also realized it wasn't a good fit because I don't do any nude scenes, and they wanted someone to do all the nude scenes, and I had to just back out of it. But I'm so mentally burnt from that because I had been practicing audition for the audition. I had to read about 60 pages, but that's life. You move
Yes.
on, right?
Yes.
And but it's taken the time where now I know I got to take a few weeks, a month to two, just to regroup before reading another script. Otherwise, I'm not doing justice to my body.
I feel you. And, I this morning when, like he put me on the spot and I felt some type of way. And then once I went for my walk and I said, you know what's meant for me is meant for me. Even if it takes me, 30 days
That's
longer, it's okay because this is what I'm teaching is that we can, and I've done it and I'm sure you've done it. I've created success from ease instead of the hustle.
of course.
And just knowing that when we're in that high vibration of fun and ease, we attract, and at least in my experience, I attract much, easier. Not that we don't have to do the work, not that we don't have to be committed and consistent. It's just I'm coming from a place of faith instead of fear. Like you talked about earlier, like the comparison. To me, that's fear and self-sabotage. And social media as well. Like I have a 30-minute time limit. I barely even, get on there. I post what I have to because I feel my nervous system activated immediately.
Totally. I totally agree with you. And as you mentioned, I practice faith. I do go to church.
Me
I don't
too.
want compare my we live in a society where it's all about comparison. I'm happy for everyone out there, very few people's successes, but I don't want to put myself in that bubble where I feel like I have to be doing this, chasing, because
Yes,
you're going to get mentally burnt,
for
right?
sure.
And I did that, and now I'm pushing back. I'm pushing back by not being on social media because, again, you can't help it when you're on social media and you're seeing. Social media is a great tool. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
It's a great
Absolutely.
tool because you use it for research, you use it to get ideas, all of that. But the flip side of social media is people are constantly doing different things and evolving. I want to be on my own pace.
Yes.
Success is always going to be there, it's achievable, but I want to do it on my own pace.
Oh, sister, you just read my mind from this morning. After I was like, you know what? I'm doing this on my own pace. And like you, I'm, a woman of faith. And I believe that's what's meant for me is meant for me. I'm a child of the Most High God. And just surrendering from fear into faith, it helps me so much because I've been there in the chase and in the hustle, and it's not sustainable and it's not good for our body, like you said, and our mind and our spirit. I feel the lesson is in the surrender.
Oh yes, it's too much, and I've been there, and I don't want to compare. I don't want to push. I
No.
just all about Eve. I want to
Mhm.
protect my mental well-being. I'm not on a journey to chase. I just want to enjoy the journey, right?
Me too. So many things that are parallel. I love it. I love it. There was something else that came up where, and I believe you could relate to this. I remember when I was a young girl, my dad told me, Grace, make sure that you could always take care of yourself.
Oh yes.
And I am so grateful to him for that. And I've learned to, finally lean on people in my life and lean on my husband. But being able to take care of myself in every way has been a blessing for me.
Oh yes. It's a wonderful thing, and I'm glad you brought that up. Growing up, my parents were successful, but sometimes when you have parents who are successful, at least my parents, they were very, very hard on me and my
Mm,
younger brother, especially my dad. My mom was like, I want to give you everything. My dad, on the other hand, was like, Eve, you got to earn
yeah.
every penny because I don't want you to think life is easy. I was fortunate to be in a boarding school at a very young age. But I remember when I would come home, my dad would wake me up and said, Eve, you got to get up. You got to make up your bed. You got to have breakfast with us before we go. And I used to say, my dad is too difficult. But looking back, I'm glad I was raised with those values. My mom always said, never depend on a man because if you don't have independence, you can be the most attractive person in the world, beauty fades, and that guy is going to be there and he's going to move on to something next. So if you cannot take care of yourself, no one is going to take care of you. And my mom always said, nothing lasts forever. So
So
those
powerful.
things that I grew up with instilled in me, those values of understanding nothing is permanent. It's wonderful, like you talked about with your spouse, to have those strong core family values. I live alone, but I have great family, wonderful. But at the end of the day, I have to be mentally, I have to take care of myself and know that.
I I feel you. And yes, we have family and connections and people that love us. And being self sufficient is, I think, very important. And we're, teaching our children to be self sufficient because, like you said, you don't know what happens. And I grew up in an environment where the majority of women were controlled by the men. And unfortunately, they weren't able to leave because there wasn't that financial security. And so for me, I didn't want to be controlled. And although my dad did say, make sure you take care of yourself, which was ironic, that was, what I witnessed was like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be trapped because of my financial insecurity.
Wow, that's powerful.
So it's all powerful. And I you put that same message out there, is regardless, sometimes women are afraid, like we said earlier, to put themselves out there, to take those steps. I hear a lot of many women say money is evil, and I want to put it out there. There's nothing wrong with us as women being financially independent. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't want to be cared for or supported by. It just, we can do both.
We can. And putting yourself out there doesn't have to be about being glamorous, right? And you really have to think about, how do you want to put yourself out there? What is your message to the world, right? So it really depends if you're looking for financial independence and whether you're doing it online by posting about your product. So you've got to find your niche and
Yes.
determine how you want to put yourself out there, because I am all about female empowerment and I am all about empowering women to put yourself out there. I think it's one of the most powerful things. But I also say, how do you want to present yourself to the world, right? You got to
Yes.
think about all of those things and be prepared, because there's always going to be an audience ready to listen to you. So it's about positioning yourself. So when you put yourself out there, you're mentally ready and be prepared. Not everyone is going to like your content, but you have to
No,
have that, thick skin.
totally. It takes thick skin, and being okay with not everyone's going to like us. We're not for everyone, and that's okay.
You're so right. And you've just got to learn to move on from it and just keep going, forging ahead.
And so, I mean, again, you are out there, and you're in the spotlight. How have you learned to move forward when those, trolls come out of the woodwork?
I don't listen. I really don't. Because if you do, we're human beings. And I'm not going to say, oh, I'm going to be like, oh, I don't listen. I'll say this, people are always going to criticize, or someone is going to say something. We live in a world that you can be the best human being. There's always going to be one person who's going to criticize your work,
For
or
sure.
criticize what you said, or criticize the way you look, or criticize what you're wearing, or this. And so I've learned that you cannot, you just cannot have that positive vibe mantra with everybody. If
Yeah.
2% would criticize, you're doing a good job. It just move on from that,
Yeah.
because there's someone out there who listens to your message and is going to
Mm,
be inspired by your content.
amen. I love that. I love that. I want to go to A Line of Fire. It just, came out not too long ago. I loved it. I loved your role. And I just recently learned that that role was originally written for a man, yet you auditioned for it and you got it, and you
Yeah.
kicked it out of the water. So talk to us about that. What was it like, knowing that role was written for a man and you went and auditioned and you got the role?
So actually, it's a twofold, because I have a PR manager, Roger Neal, is the one who told me about the role and spoke to the producer about me and all of that, and then it happened. I was very fortunate that I got the role. I read the script and it was written for a man. The director, who's also one of the producers, Matt Shapira, was so welcoming, because again, when you're writing a script for a man, it was very different. So I went to him and I shared some ideas in terms of trying to help make the story more believable, because when people think about an FBI director, they don't think about me, right? Like someone like
I
me.
loved it. I'm like, yes, girl.
They think about a guy and all of that. And I have my signature look, which is, the hair. I love pink and all of that. And but I wanted the story to feel authentic in terms of the way I would bring this story to life. And went to him with ideas in terms of, let's think about her backstory, and this would make the story more believable. And I said, well, people would wonder, how is this woman who has an accent. How does she become an FBI director? And so we had a backstory where her father was a Cuban ambassador and all of that. So he was just very welcoming. It was great to be in a project with an Oscar winner, Cuba Gooding Jr., David A. White, who has been acting since he was 19. He's one of the producers on the role, and he's actually the lead. He plays Cash, Jason Patrick, Scott Baio,
I
Katrina
know.
Bo.
Is that Scott Baio? I'm like,
Yes, it's
I
Scott.
watch Scott Baio.
Scott Baio. I think that to be a working actor, because you just never know when next you're going to be on set. It's like anything in life, there's no guarantee. It's a blessing. And it's a blessing when the project comes to life. And the fact that it was released by Sony Pictures, right, a major studio, is also a blessing. So I was very fortunate, and to play that role was quite an interesting role.
I love it. So fun. It was so fun. So fun to see you in that role. When you've talked about next level, the next level, what's the next level for you?
You know, I can't really think about the next level as a working actor. I'm always grateful when I'm working, when I'm on set, because it would be very, it's difficult to predict your trajectory. All I want to do is show up. If I have a project, I want to be the best professional, because acting is like any other job. You're there to collaborate, you're there to work and help bring the story to life. So it's like any regular job that you go in, you got to be humble. You got to work well with these people so people respect you, no dramas and all of that. So next level for me is more I continue to work, continue to tell stories. I continue to grow as an actor, because acting is you grow. I continue to tell impactful stories in one way or the other. I think for me, that's next level, because you can never predict. We're all on a journey, and who knows where
Yeah,
this journey is going to take you. So
right?
I don't want to think about next level. I just think focus on I have some key projects coming up as well next year, which I can't really share, how the industry goes, but very exciting things happening in 2026.
That's super exciting. Well, we'll definitely have to bring you back in 2026 to share about those projects when it's time.
Well, I actually filmed a project called Straight Shot in South Carolina, and I
Nice.
had a very great role. It has David A. White, he is the lead actor. It's got Dolph Lundgren. I don't know if you
Okay,
know
yeah. From
Dolph.
Rocky.
Yes, it's got Tyrese Gibson,
Yeah.
Rachel Leah Cook from
Very nice.
yeah, Rachel, and then William Forsythe, Nikki Whalen. My role was great. My character Misty, and Misty got to wear pink. I mean,
Yes. I
oh,
put the pink on for you today.
oh, thank you. So, thank you.
That's super fun. What is one last nugget of wisdom that you could leave our audience with for someone who's wants to show up but has a fear to show up?
Wow, that's a great question. You got to believe in yourself.
Ooh, girl, mic drop.
You know, I shared this with you earlier, and I want your listeners to know. Before I came on your podcast, I was feeling a little bit down and just underwhelmed today. I wasn't in the best of moods. Again, I shared with you because of the weather and all of these things. In my own head, I'm like, oh my goodness, I've been going through that. But I also knew that I had to come and I had to do this because I had already committed myself to this. No
Thank you.
excuse. So I bring this up because if anyone is out there and you're going through a difficulty, that's going to pass. The key is having those people in your life that you can talk to when you're experiencing those difficult days. Everyone, I don't care if you're a billionaire, everyone goes through difficulties in life. But I believe in surrounding yourself with people who uplift, people, have a network of friends that you can talk to, even one or two, but the people who believe in you, because everyone has a dream, or some people want to do things and they don't know how to get started. So just have people that you could look up to who could uplift you and make you feel better.
Thank you so much, Eve. I appreciate you so much, and just you're beautiful inside and outside. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today and for showing up. I appreciate you. And to those who are watching and listening, thank you so much for being with us. I am grateful for you. And Eve, let them know where they can find you.
Of course. And also, I've got to talk about we're planning season 3 of the Discovery Pod with Eve.
Yes.
I am on Instagram, Eve Richards underscore Eve. I guess if they Google Eve Richards, you could find everything about Eve on Google. So,
And we'll share all of your, your website, the Instagram, the podcast. We'll share all of that with our audience, and would love to have you back in 2026 to share about your new projects. I appreciate you so much.